The sun was setting on planet Varnock 7. The sky turned orange, and the giant trees of the wild jungle stood like silent guards. This jungle was dangerous, full of hidden creatures, deadly plants, and unknown secrets. No one went inside unless they had a death wish, but one man lived near the edge of it. His name was Rick. Rick was not a soldier. He was not a hero. He was just a quiet man with a small hut, some old tools, and a simple life. He came here years ago to escape the war on Earth. He wanted peace, and the jungle gave him that. Until today, that evening, while checking his traps for food, Rick heard something strange. A sound he had never heard before. It was not an animal growl. It was not the wind. It was a scream. A long, painful, human-like scream, echoing through the trees. Rick froze. His hand tightened on the knife at his belt. He looked toward the jungle. The sound had come from deep inside. He listened again. Another scream, softer this time, full of fear. Someone was in trouble. Rick's mind said, "Stay away. It's a trap. Don't go into the jungle." But his heart said something else. Someone needed help. He took a deep breath, grabbed his backpack, and walked toward the sound. The jungle welcomed him with silence. Only the crunch of dry leaves under his boots could be heard. The trees were so tall they blocked the light. Strange glowing plants lit the path in green and blue. Shadows moved quickly between the branches, but nothing attacked him. After 20 minutes, he saw something. A strange metal trap was hanging from a thick tree branch, high above the ground. It looked alien, nothing like Rick had seen before. Inside the trap, struggling and bleeding, was a figure. At first, he thought it was a woman, maybe a human woman. She was slim, with long white hair. Her clothes were torn, and strange glowing symbols covered her arms. But as he stepped closer, he saw her eyes. They were not human. They were large, golden, and shining like stars. Rick's heart raced. She was an alien. Her skin was pale blue. Her hands had 4 fingers, and her body was thin but strong. She looked down at him with pain and fear. She whispered something in a language Rick didn't understand, but her eyes said it clearly. "Help me." Rick didn't know if she was dangerous, but she was trapped, bleeding, and helpless. Carefully, he climbed the tree. The trap was made of some alien metal, sharp and buzzing with low energy. He used his tools to cut the energy wires and slowly opened the metal cage. The alien woman fell into his arms, weak, shaking, but still alive. Rick carried her down and laid her gently on the ground. She tried to speak, but coughed and held her side. Blood, a silvery blue liquid, stained her clothes. He looked around. The jungle was too open here. It wasn't safe to stay. Rick picked her up again. She was light, almost like a child. He turned back and started walking toward his hut. All the way, the jungle watched them in silence. When he reached his home, he placed her on his bed and quickly cleaned her wounds. She flinched at first, but didn't stop him. He gave her water. She drank slowly, her eyes always watching him, confused, tired, but not afraid anymore. Then as Rick turned to light a fire, something strange happened. A small round device fell from her belt and rolled to the floor. Rick picked it up. It looked like a tiny orb, black and smooth. As soon as he touched it, the orb glowed red. A robotic voice spoke from it. "Warning. Enemy tracking signal active. Hostile forces approaching." Rick dropped the orb in shock. He turned toward the alien woman. She was now sitting up, her eyes wide with fear. She spoke 2 words in broken English. "They're coming." The night was not silent anymore. Above the jungle, strange lights flickered in the sky, red, green, and white, moving like hungry eyes searching for something. Inside a small wooden hut, hidden near the jungle's edge, Rick stood with the alien orb still glowing in his hand. The voice echoed again in his mind. "Hostile forces approaching. Time to impact. 42 minutes. He turned toward the alien woman. She sat up on the bed, breathing hard, her silver blue skin shining in the way. Fire-elight. Her golden eyes locked onto his. She was not just lost. She was not just hurt. She was being hunted. Rick took a step back. "Who are you?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she pressed her hand to her chest and said, "Alari." Rick frowned. "Is that your name?" She nodded slowly. Then she touched her lips, then pointed to him. He understood. "I'm Rick," he said. She repeated softly, "Rick." There was a strange sadness in her voice, like she had not said anyone's name in a very long time. Outside, the wind blew hard. The jungle. Trees creaked and groaned like they were warning him. Time was running out. Rick moved to the window and looked out. In the far sky, small red dots were getting bigger. Ships. Hunting ships. He turned back to Alari. "Why are they after you?" She didn't answer with words. She raised her hand slowly and waved it across the air. A small hologram appeared, floating in midair, glowing softly. It showed a planet Rick had never seen before. Big cities, tall spires, blue oceans. And then fire. Explosions. Screams. A war. In the center. Rick saw Alari, wearing royal armor, standing in front of a crowd. Soldiers bowed before her. She looked powerful, not weak like now. Then came another image, a dark figure in a metal mask. He held a weapon made of light. His voice echoed from the hologram. "Bring the traitor back, dead or alive." The hologram vanished. Rick was silent. She was not just any alien. She was a fugitive princess. And someone powerful wanted her dead. Suddenly, a sharp sound broke the silence. A high-pitched beep. The orb blinked again. Hostiles now within 20 kilometers. "Prepare for impact." Rick cursed under his breath. "We can't stay here." He grabbed his pack, threw in supplies, and helped Alari to her feet. She winced in pain but nodded. Together, they stepped outside into the dark jungle. The trees swayed above them like giants. Creatures moved in the distance. Somewhere, a low growl echoed. Rick pulled out a small map, old and torn. "There's an old cave system near the cliffs," he whispered. "They can't scan inside the rock." Alari looked at him, then gave a small, weak smile, the first he had seen. He didn't know why he was helping her. She was not human. She was dangerous. She was bringing death to his doorstep, but something deep inside told him she didn't deserve to be hunted like this. As they moved through the jungle, the lights above got brighter. One of the ships passed overhead, scanning the ground with a beam of red light. Rick and Alari dropped to the ground, hiding under thick roots. The ship stopped, hovered, then moved on. Alari whispered something Rick didn't understand. Her voice was soft, like a prayer. They kept moving. Suddenly, a loud snap echoed behind them. Rick turned fast, knife in hand. But it was not a beast. It was a drone. Floating, watching, recording. It flew at them fast. Rick didn't think. He threw his knife straight into the drone's eye. Sparks flew as it dropped, smoking and dead. But it was too late. They had been seen. Alari looked at him, fear in her eyes. She raised her hand and showed him 5 fingers, then slowly closed them one by one. 5.4.3.2. Rick understood. They were coming. Right now, asterisk. The jungle had changed. It no longer whispered. Now, it watched. Every leaf, every branch, every tree felt alive, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Rick moved carefully through the thick undergrowth, his eyes scanning every shadow. Behind him, Alari limped quietly, one hand on her side, the other holding the strange glowing orb that still pulsed red. They were being followed. And not by machines. 30 minutes ago, Rick had destroyed a scout drone. Now, they were deep inside the jungle. There was no path, no light, only fog, silence, and the feeling that something was getting closer with every step. Then he heard it. Click. Not metal. Bones. He turned fast. Nothing. But Alari had stopped moving. Her eyes stared into the trees, unblinking. She spoke just one word, Vornix. Rick didn't know the word, but the way she said it made his blood turn cold. She raised her hand and drew a shape in the air, a symbol that looked like a twisted claw. Rick whispered, "What are Vornix?" She looked at him and replied, slowly, in broken English, "They hunt minds, not bodies." Just then, a noise echoed from the right. Not footsteps, skittering like claws over bark, then another sound. From the left, they were surrounded. Rick raised his knife, but he knew steel wouldn't be enough for this. Suddenly, the fog around them moved. Not wind, not mist, something breathing. A shape formed behind a tree. Tall, thin, bending in ways that bones shouldn't. It had no face, only a smooth white mask and long arms ending in black. Spiked fingers. Its head tilted slowly, like it was listening to their thoughts. Alari gripped Rick's shoulder. Her voice shook. "Don't think. Don't speak. They smell fear." Through memory. Rick tried to empty his mind, but one memory came, clear and sharp. The day Earth burned. The creature snapped its head toward him, as if it had seen it too. It moved fast, like a glitch in time, closing the distance in seconds. Rick pulled Alari and ran. Branches whipped across his face. Roots grabbed at his boots, but he didn't stop. Behind them, the Vornix let out a sound, a deep, painful clicking, like bones cracking in reverse. Suddenly, another creature dropped from above. Alari screamed and fell. Rick spun and slashed with his knife, but the blade passed through air. The Vornix flickered like a ghost. Alari raised her orb. It glowed bright white. She pressed something. A wave of light burst out, silent, sharp. The Vornix screamed without a mouth and vanished into dust. But more were coming. Rick lifted Alari onto his back and kept running. They reached a clearing. In the center stood an old alien statue, broken, moss-covered, forgotten. Alari pointed weakly. "Sanctuary," she whispered. Rick carried her inside the base of the statue, into a hidden cave. As they passed through the arch, the fog behind them stopped. The jungle fell quiet again. The creatures would not enter. They were safe. For now. Inside, Rick laid her down gently. Alari touched the ground and whispered something. The cave lit up, glowing lines on the walls, like veins of light. Rick finally sat down, heart pounding. He looked at her. "What are they?" she replied softly. "They are memory hunters. Sent to find me. I escaped with something. Important." "What did you take?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she opened the orb. A small crystal floated inside. It hummed with power. "This is the last map of the rebel worlds. If they find it, they destroy us all." Rick leaned back. He thought this was just a rescue, but now he realized he was part of something much bigger. The cave was breathing, not with air, but with energy glowing softly from the walls, like starlight trapped in stone. Rick sat near the entrance, his back against the cold rock. His knife rested beside him, useless against the strange new enemies they had faced. Outside, the jungle was quiet again, but he knew that silence didn't mean safety. Inside, Alari lay asleep on a smooth stone slab. Her silver-blue skin had turned pale, her body weak. Rick had questions, but the answers were locked inside her, or so he thought. An hour passed. Then suddenly, the cave lights pulsed, just once, and then held steady. Rick looked up. Alari was awake, but something was different. Her eyes, they were glowing again. Not gold this time. White. She sat up slowly, placed both hands on the stone surface, and whispered a word in her alien language. The stone shifted beneath her. A hologram appeared in the air, full of stars and moving galaxies. "Rick," she said softly. Her voice was clear now, stronger. Her English better. "You helped me. Now I show you who I am." The hologram zoomed into one planet, a shining world, green forests, white towers, Blue skies, Alari's world. It was once beautiful, she said. Full of life, full of light. Then the light turned red. Ships appeared in the sky. Fire rained down. Explosions. Cities fell. Then he came, she said. The hologram shifted to show a tall figure in black armor, face hidden by a mask of shadows. The High Commander, my father. Rick's eyes widened. He's the one hunting. You? Alari nodded. I ran because I could not kill for him anymore. He sent me to destroy rebels. Instead, I joined them. She showed another image, herself, younger, standing with a group of strange beings. One looked like fire, one looked like stone, one was only light. We were called the Broken Stars. We were not soldiers. We were survivors. Then her hand shook. The image shattered. I betrayed him. I stole the last map of the hidden rebel worlds. If he finds it, they all die. Rick stood silently. You're not just running from your father, he said. You're running from war. She looked up at him. No, I'm running to war. To end it, I need to get to the rebel signal tower, but I cannot do it alone. She looked down. My powers are fading. They used poison on me. Mind poison. It's eating my memories. Then she touched her head, wincing in pain. Rick stepped forward. I don't have ships. I don't have weapons. I'm just, she interrupted. Him, you saved me. You fought the Vornex. You didn't run. Her hand touched his chest. You are more than you believe. Just then, a sharp hum echoed through the cave. The orb she carried began to shake. Lights flickered. No, Alari whispered. They found the signal. A section of the cave wall blinked red. A new voice came through the orb. Rebel base under attack. Coordinates compromised. Casualties rising. Repeat. Base under. The voice cut off. Alari stood, unsteady. We have to move, now. Rick grabbed his gear. Where's the signal tower? She pointed north, through the jungle's heart. But it's guarded. By something older than my people. Older than your people? Rick asked. What is it? She looked him in the eyes. The jungle's original mind. The Watcher. Rick took a deep breath. He had come to this planet to escape war. Now he was walking straight into one, side by side with a hunted alien princes and a glowing map that could save the galaxy. And between them and safety was a creature that even the Vornex feared. The jungle was not sleeping anymore. It had woken up. Trees groaned like old bones, and thick vines twisted on their own. The ground pulsed softly, as if something deep below was watching and waiting. Rick stood at the edge of a black ravine. Sweat on his brow, dirt on his face, and his mind racing. Beside him, Alari knelt, one hand on the soil, her glowing fingers moving gently across the roots. She whispered in her language, not to him, but to the jungle itself. The Watcher is near, she said. We are close to its territory. We must not anger it. Rick raised an eyebrow. You mean the jungle has feelings? Alari looked at him. It has memory. It knows who walks with peace and who brings war. Rick wasn't sure if he believed her, but one thing was certain. They were being followed. Far behind them, through the thick green mist, a shape moved. Not a drone, not a beast. A soldier. No, a hunter. He was tall, armored in black and red, and his eyes glowed like lava. He moved with patience, precision, as if he knew they would never escape. Alari whispered, that is Kor. He is not alive like you or me. He was built to catch traitors. He cannot be reasoned with. Rick clenched his fists. Then we don't reason. The jungle around them was full of natural weapons, spikes, traps, poisonous thorns. Rick had lived here for years. He knew what plants could kill, what mud could hide tracks, and which creatures would attack when disturbed. It was time to use all of it. He began working fast, digging shallow pits, planting sharpened sticks, smearing leaves with tree venom, tying vines into tripwires. Alari watched, impressed. "You were not always a builder," she said. "I was a soldier," Rick replied, without pride. "Long ago. I walked away from war. But I guess war didn't walk away from me." As darkness fell, the sounds of the jungle changed again. Not birds, not insects, footsteps. Heavy, slow, closer. Rick and Alari crouched behind a wall of rootstock, and then Cor appeared, stepping over rocks like they were nothing. He stopped. He sniffed the air like a predator. Then suddenly, snap! His foot caught a vine. A wooden spike flew out of the ground and pierced his leg. But Cor didn't scream. He didn't fall. He laughed, a low, mechanical sound. And then he pulled the spike out like it was a splinter. Rick whispered, "Well, that didn't work." Alari gripped his arm. "He has no pain. Only programming." Cor moved again, but this time, faster. He stepped right into the second trap, a pitfall, and dropped 6 feet into sharpened wood. Still no scream. Rick didn't wait. He jumped down behind him, knife in hand. They fought. In the pit, dirt flying, blade against armor. Cor grabbed Rick by the throat. "You are protecting a virus," he growled. "She must be erased." Rick gasped for air, then smashed his fist into Cor's glowing eye, cracking it. The hunter roared, tossed Rick aside, and began to climb out. Alari stood above, both hands glowing now. She raised the orb. Enough. A pulse of energy shot down. Korr. Froze, shaking, twitching. Sparks burst from his armor. He dropped to the bottom of the pit, smoke rising from his chest. Rick coughed and climbed out, holding his ribs. "You killed him?" Alari shook her head. "No, slow him. He will rise again." Rick stared into the dark pit. "How do you stop something that doesn't die?" She replied softly. "You don't stop him, you outrun him. Or you wake something older than him." She pointed to the jungle beyond, deeper, darker, and unnaturally still. "The Watcher is waiting. If we enter, we must give something, a memory, a truth." Rick looked at her confused. "What kind of truth?" She met his eyes. "The kind you've buried for years." Behind them, smoke rose from the pit. Cor was moving again, and ahead of them. The jungle began to whisper with voices not their own. It was time to walk into the heart of the forest, into the place where memories come alive. And lies can't survive. Asterisk, the trees were whispering names. Not out loud, but inside their minds. Rick felt it first, a voice from the leaves, soft and sharp at the same time. It didn't speak words. It showed him memories. Blood, fire, screams, his screams. He shook his head, trying to stay grounded. Beside him, Alari walked slowly, her skin dimmer than before, her eyes distant, like she was walking through a memory. Instead of a forest, they had entered the Watcher's domain. This part of the jungle was silent. No wind, no creatures. Even the colors were wrong. Green leaves now dark blue. Roots glowing with a dull orange light. It didn't feel like nature anymore. It felt like a brain, alive, watching, waiting. Rick and Alari reached a clearing with no sky above, only thick vines that formed a ceiling. Like a rib cage made from trees. In the center was a pool of black water. Still, cold, mirror-like. Alari stopped at the edge and whispered, "This is the price." "What price?" Rick asked. She looked at him. "Truth." Without another word, she stepped into the pool. The water didn't ripple. It swallowed her like smoke. Rick cursed under his breath. And followed. He didn't sink. He fell, through memories, through thoughts. Not his own, hers. He saw a flash. Alari wearing dark armor, standing beside her father. He saw her give orders to destroy a rebel outpost. He saw fire. Civilians. Children. She looked away. But her hand had pressed the button. Another flash. She was alone, crying in an empty room of metal walls. Another. She stole the map orb. ran into the jungle, bleeding and hunted. One more, she saw Rick for the first time. Not in real life, but in a vision. Weeks before they met, she had known about him all along. Rick gasped and broke the surface of the pool. Alari was already standing at the edge, silent. "You lied to me," he said. She didn't answer. "You knew me. You saw me before we met. That wasn't an accident. You came to find me." She nodded slowly. "I was told you would help me. That you were once like me." "Like you?" Rick laughed bitterly. "I burned a village, thought it was enemy base. Just smoke, no heat. It was kids hiding." He looked away. "I left Earth because I couldn't look in a mirror anymore." Alari stepped forward. "So did I." They stood in silence, two broken people, both running from the same thing, themselves. Then a voice echoed through the trees, not human, not hers. It sounded like every voice they had ever known, speaking all at once. "The price is paid. The path will open. But beware, trust breaks faster than bone." The ground rumbled. Vines uncoiled. A new path revealed itself, glowing with soft white light, leading deeper into the forest, toward the ancient signal tower. But just as they stepped forward, a high-pitched frequency screamed through the jungle. The orb in Alari's hand flashed red. Kor had found them, and he wasn't alone. 3 more hunter drones were closing in, fast, armed, silent. Rick turned to Alari. "No more lies. No more visions. If you have any secret left, tell me now." She looked at the glowing orb, then at him. "There's one more thing," she whispered. "I'm not dying from poison." Rick narrowed his eyes. She continued. "The map. It's alive. It bonds with a host. It's inside me now. I'm not a carrier. I'm the map." Before Rick could respond, a red beam tore through the trees just inches from his head. The jungle fight was over. Now came the final chase. The jungle had stopped breathing. Not a single leaf moved. Not a single root twitched. It was as if the entire forest was holding its breath, waiting to see who would live and who would die. Rick stood at the cliff's edge, the ancient signal tower rising behind him like a giant made of bones and stars. Its spire reached high into the green sky, cracked and overgrown, but still alive, pulsing faintly with power. Beside him, Alari was on her knees, hands on her chest, eyes glowing too bright. She was no longer just a fugitive. She was no longer just a voice in the jungle. She was the map, the last living key to a network of rebel worlds that her father, the High Commander, had been hunting for years. Inside her mind, stars turned. Coordinates shifted, lives waited. But outside her body, death was closing in. Rick looked to the trees. They were coming. Kor, the metal hunter, now half burned, half repaired, marched forward like a machine that refused to die. Behind him, 3 drone soldiers moved with perfect silence, eyes glowing, weapons ready. Rick had no traps left. No cover. No backup, but he had something else. Nothing left to lose. He turned to Alari. "You said the tower needs a signal, needs a final code." She nodded weakly. "It needs blood memory, a full merge. The map has to burn through the body to send the call." Rick's voice cracked. "You won't survive that." Alari looked up at him with calm in her eyes. "I was never meant to." Suddenly, a scream, not human. One of the drones flew forward, straight toward them. Rick jumped in front, fired his last pulse bullet, direct hit. The drone exploded in light, but the other 2 came fast, climbing the cliff walls like insects. Kor stepped into the clearing, slow and confident. He raised his hand. "Alari, you will return. You are not a leader. You are a weapon, a system." Rick growled, standing between them. "She's more than that now." Kor's eyes glowed red. "She is broken." Rick smiled. "So am I." Suddenly, the jungle moved, not the trees. The Watcher. It rose behind the tower, not a creature, but a shape, a being made of vines and memory. It had no eyes, no face. Only 1,000 whispers echoing in every leaf dot. It spoke to them all. Final hour. Final choice. Will you protect the living or preserve the past? Alari stood, weak, trembling, but standing. She walked past Rick. She walked toward the tower's heart. Kor aimed his weapon. Rick screamed, "Nitrogen monoxide!" He ran, grabbed a fallen drone shield, and threw it like a disc dot. It slammed into Kor's chest. Kor fired anyway, laser burning toward Alari. Too fast, too close. Rick jumped between them. The blast hit him. Time stopped. The jungle went silent again. Rick fell to his knees. Alari caught him, holding his face. "Why?" she asked, tears falling. Rick smiled faintly. "Because you showed me I'm still human." Then he closed his eyes, and the tower lit up. A pulse of pure white light exploded from the spire. The jungle shook. The clouds above split. Across the stars, signals jumped from system to system, awakening rebel beacons, forgotten fleets, lost colonies. The galaxy heard a call it thought had been silenced, and Kor screamed as his systems crashed. His armor cracked. His light died. The jungle wrapped around him like roots closing over a tomb. Alari stood alone now, barely breathing. The map was gone. The pain was fading, but so was she. She looked to the stars, then back to Rick. "I will remember you," she whispered. The next morning, the jungle was quiet again, but not dead. Not lost. It was free. And in a distant sky, above a sleeping forest, a rebel ship answered the signal.